Welcome back to Peggy Skylight, Pedro, Dennis and Ross. We're delighted to have you here with us again. I'm going to start by, so this is the Velocity Trio, isn't it?
Yes.
Which came together
2010.
Which is more than a decade you've been
2010.
together.
Is it 2009 even for the London Jazz Festival with Scofield, opening for Scofield 2009?
I think it was before.
Well, I thought that was 2010, but it's probably 2009.
So 12 years.
12 years. Yeah.
Wow, 12 years.
Yes.
How did it all happen?
Well, I had the idea of putting a trio together, an organ trio as a trombone lead instrument. And I was introduced to Pedro after trying out a few drummers. And just as in the same situation with Ross, the first instance of playing with them, it was clear that this was a beautiful, intuitive and very spontaneous meeting of minds, and so we just took it from there, really.
So it must have been a bit odd for you guys. Have you seen each other much since this lockdown, pandemic stroke, hoping to get out of it and not quite time?
Well, no, we haven't seen each other. You're going to find this rather unbelievable. We haven't played together since 2019.
May 3rd.
May 3rd, 2000.
Oh.
He's a dates man, this guy. May 3rd, 2019. That was the last time we played together, actually, the actual time we last played together.
Wow.
So
today's like a sort of celebration of
yes.
you're coming together again, I guess, which is brilliant for us here. Going back to pre-pandemic, you guys have all individually and as a collective played in all sorts of huge venues, loads of sort of Brixton Academy, Ronnie Scotts across the world, here, there and everywhere. I'm interested as sort of an audience member really to know not so much what that feels like now, but when you first walked into a place like that to perform, what that felt like. Who wants to start?
Pedro?
Ross,
I
you wanna go
mean,
first?
well, somewhere like Ronnie Scotts, for instance, the first time I played there, I was terrified. Just the heritage, the people that played there over the years, It's been going since 56,
1959. Yeah.
59. And just seeing all the pictures on the walls of all these incredibly famous jazz musicians. It's quite intimidating.
Yeah, very.
How old were you at that time? If you don't mind me asking.
12.
No, I guess I was a few years out of music college, so that would have been probably about 2006 or something like that. So.
Wow. And Pedro, you used to go, when you first came here, didn't you? You used to go and listen and watch.
Ronnie's?
Yeah.
Yes, well, I got a sort of similar experience like Ross, but I kind of got to go to Ronnie Scotts out of necessity to be exposed to the music, and without even knowing that I would later become the house drummer there in 2010. So it was really kind of gradual how I got to be involved in a daily basis with the club, because at the end of the day, jazz is an oral tradition, so you really have to be. There's no shortcuts unless you are on the place, listen to other players. So I'm very grateful to have had the chance to play there for many years. Yes.
And you'd flown straight over from Lisbon to study and straight in.
Correct.
Immersive, no English.
No English, very bad. Poor English.
He spoke
How's
good
his-
English.
Terrible.
He was straight in there. He's an orator, and the language of music speaks across the boundaries and very naturally. And for what he didn't say, he said it all on the drums and the percussion. And we actually blended and conversed very easily on the bandstand, and that I think that was the thing for me. It was just how beautiful it felt and how natural from the perspective of a trombone player, a frontline instrument, it just felt there was a lot of freedom, because these two guys have a language. If I'm taken out of the picture, they have a language themselves, which speaks, obviously in the jazz tradition, the if you like, the organ duo with a different frontline instrument would normally be a guitar, trumpet, saxophone, but just as a trombone player, to stand back and listen to these playing traditional jazz, and taking that tradition into other areas, into areas of their heritage as well. It's fascinating. I still just stand back in awe of these two.
Dennis, I want to take a few steps back, because you are known to be an amazing educator as well as musician. And so obviously you have all come into music quite young. And I'm interested to know why you were drawn to the trombone first. And also, your experiences of sort of like teaching jazz to young people now, because you do quite a lot of work with young people.
I mean, my teaching, if you like, moved in parallel with my own jazz education of learning how to play the instrument. In Yorkshire, where I grew up, very fortunate. I was very fortunate, should I say. There was a youth jazz orchestra, a youth jazz association comprising of 3 bands, a junior stage band, intermediate swing orchestra, and a senior jazz orchestra, and I went through the ranks of that. During that whole time, and we're talking about 84 really, we're talking around the 84 period, I was exposed to incredible tuition. I had an incredible mentor by the name of John Ellis, and he advocated teaching as a norm, each one teach one, sort of philosophy, each musician teach another one. So I just went along with that sort of theory, and consequently found myself just naturally teaching as I progressed learning, so it was, and it continues today. I'm still very passionate about watching young students, watching young people and old people get to grips with learning, and I love watching them progress, to the point that even tonight we have a young trombone player, student of mine. He's going to come up and do a song with us, and there are going to be a couple of my students in the audience as well, and it's just beautiful to see them, and to see them interested in just learning,
That's brilliant. How do you think, so for young people then, how do you, in terms of the landscape today, what kind of opportunities, or how do you see if there are more, fewer, what the landscape looks like for artists emerging now, do you think, musicians particularly, maybe in the UK, or you could talk about?
Well, I think it's going to be a tough time for them. In truth, I think for young jazz musicians in particular, because the community is a small community in the first place. You add to that the closing of venues. You add to that the diminishing funds for the arts, and it paints, in truth, a bleak picture. All we can rely on, in my opinion, is the young enjoying music and creating music for music's sake, and not looking at trying to be a millionaire, but just trying as much as possible to make ends meet, trying to make just trying to sustain as a musician, enjoying music. It's definitely going to be a tough few years, up to, in my opinion, up to the next 5-10 years. It's going to be tough for those coming out of the colleges and coming out of the universities. It's going to be tough. But from what I'm seeing in the young musicians. It's amazing to hear the creativity and to feel the excitement as well. So,
Okay. What music do you listen to at home? Is it all about eat, sleep, and drink jazz and
No.
classical? What is it? Give us a few faves. Come on. I've heard a few popular-ish notes coming out, so go on, spill these.
I'll often have classical music on at home, actually. I'm massively into Debussy, Ravel. Yeah,
Same here. I'm really in love with classical music. I think it really has all the foundation in harmony, melody, and aligning that with the African tradition. I think is bringing those worlds together is what inform us as jazz musicians. I think is very important. But I really enjoy to listen to a variety of music. I really think it's just and there's so much good music coming out of COVID. A lot of people had to sort of be creative to start producing their own stuff. So aligning the tradition and with the new, I think is a very good period. I think that. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, personally, I listen to a lot of music of my heritage. My parents are Jamaican, and way back, I remember listening to songs in the house that my mom and dad would play on the record player cassettes, and I didn't know anything about the heritage of the music, but certain songs had a jazz feel, and I can remember listening to Little Millie, the song called My Boy Lollipop, for instance. My boy lollipop, so you have a song like that, and you listen to the rhythm section playing, and it's got a jazz shuffle, and you've got that whole guitars moving, you got the live element. From there, I suddenly discovered ska music that my parents used to listen to, and it was it's jazz, and it was musicians from the Caribbean influenced from the jazz musicians of America. So it took me a while to understand that, and I didn't really understand that until I was well into my trombone education, that what I was listening to back then was essentially jazz, coming from a different standpoint, and almost going, the revolving door, Jamaican musicians listening to English and American musicians and trying to emulate that. And it's like, wow, it was pretty deep. And so, even now I listen to a lot, and I listen to all the styles, all the hip hop and all the R&B, and for me, I've got this thing at the moment with music of the 70s, the singer-songwriters.
Oh, wow.
And it's just like I'm really enjoying song. To hear a song being sung and well written, and last but not least is I've discovered the Beatles at my old age.
Woo!
Amazing.
Never too late. Never too late.
I'm telling you.
Have you seen that film?
Which
the
one?
one about the yesterday?
Oh,
Have you seen it?
Great.
Which is you haven't seen it.
I've
You should
seen
see
it,
it. It's
yeah.
quite funny. It's sort of a semi-comedy, which is about this guy who's part of a not very good band,
Yes.
and there's this sort of glitch, and what happens is that everyone apart from him and a few other people in the world don't have any memory of the Beatles or any of their music.
Wow.
But he does, and so he starts to play, doesn't he? He starts to play this track, and they're all kind of like, wow, dude, like, how'd you come up with that? And he's like, what do you mean? That's like yesterday, that's like Paul, and they're like, and then he's sort of like, I can't believe that is one of the greatest songs, and you don't know it. And they're like, oh, like,
Is that a
getting
new
a
film?
bit cocky. You should. It's not that
3
new.
years, 4
I'm
years.
going to check it.
It's really quite amusing.
Yeah.
And then he goes on this journey of basically playing all of these tracks and getting really famous
Yes.
on them.
It's really funny.
And so maybe check if you're on a Beatles.
Well,
trip.
the thing is,
Might be- yeah.
the thing is with the Beatles is we were talking when we were asked to do this series of gigs that we've got, and I would love to do a Beatles set with this outfit. I'd love to do a whole set of Beatles songs, twisted up, and I think it could work something crazy.
Mm.
I mean, that's that beautiful thing. So I was saying earlier that some of my work in the past is sort of working with musicians from a South Asian music background who are also kind of moving into jazz and classical and those kind of combinations.
Yes.
I suppose, and one of the quotes about you guys in The Guardian says that the music draws in jazz doubters without selling the art down the Swanny. Do you know the word Swanny? It's kind of like
Swanny River.
Going down, yeah. Which is quite an interesting in for audiences that are not maybe.
Yeah. I mean, the way I feel about that is, it's a really interesting sort of statement, because as jazz musicians, we want to be serious, and we're serious about our music, and some of the feeling can be, oh man, we want to be a little more radical than that. But it's a beautiful thing to know that we can touch an audience and still keep our integrity in how intense we play, how we can twist things up, and it's really nice to feel that an audience can go with us, and I don't know about you guys, but I really feel that it's something special when we as performers can get into the ugly beauty of a song or the ugly beauty of a composition and really twist it up and make the audience go like this. Then the very next song we play something so serene and calm and beautiful that all is forgiven. And it's that sort of dynamic, if you like, of the arts of what art is, to stir the emotions in as many ways as we can, and with artistry, with simplicity, and just kind of just move people if we're able to do that. So
I think as well, I mean, I noted you when I walked in, there was this wonderful sound as you were kind of like just jamming together and like doing your sound check. And I think the impression that I got, and I'm sure that everyone will get tonight when they come in, is that you just really enjoy and have a lot of fun. There's a lot of sort of humour within. I think it's a really special thing to be able to take an audience on that journey with you as kind of a collective that's just having loads and loads of fun with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you feel about that, that is so important, isn't it? That the seriousness of the work underpinning it is obviously all of your amazing training and all the people you've worked with. So
but it's about playfulness, You're playing instruments, so that means you have to have interplay. So you have to actually listen to each other and bring that joy of making music, especially more than ever now. I mean, we are so lucky to be able to make music and to come back after COVID and have an audience to play for. I mean, we could never forget that. And again, so the playfulness is something that has to be there, and of course serve the music, but serve it in a way that people will connect with you. So it's essential to have playfulness. Maybe perhaps that's what you felt. This is such a joy, because why take life too serious? Because we're actually making music. How great is that?
Another point is, we play for an audience. The important thing is that the band does become the audience, and the audience becomes the band. So we get that rolling conversation, unspoken conversation. But a beautiful thing about playing at a venue like Peggy's Skylight is you can feel the love for the music in the building. Yeah. So you can feel a very natural and giving love for music here, and it feels a great place to play. So we're feeling that already, just having set up and sound checked.
Yeah.
And so we can only become a part of the whole, really, and hopefully, everybody feels that, and we all become one in the room, which is a nice feeling when that happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice feeling.
And Dennis, you're the patron of this venue.
Yes, I am. I'm very honoured to be the patron. Yes, and when I was asked to be the patron, it was after a couple of times of having played at the club, and I live an hour away from here, and in this region, there aren't many jazz clubs, but I feel, and I don't know what you feel, Ross, it's really quite a special club, because we play all up and down the country, we play all around the world in different venues, and there really aren't many venues like this. In this country, I can feel two venues like this, and that's Peggy, Skylight, and Ronnie Scotts. I feel this kind of energy. So it's important to mention and to appreciate and thank Rachel and Paul for doing such a fantastic job with the club, and for continuing through the hardships. And all we want to do as musicians is support them, because without them, we can't do what we do. So it's important to mention that Paul and Rachel here at Peggy's Skylight are doing a fantastic job, and they're very much appreciated. Yes. Insert.
Send patron Dennis. Patron St. Dennis.
So does it mean that, so now that we're all gearing up again, have you guys got some exciting dates coming up elsewhere?
We've a few, and more are coming in all the time. And there are other clubs in the country, but more are coming in, and it's just a case of finding out when Pedro's in the country, because he's stateside now. He's playing with the likes of Nicholas Painton in New Orleans, and he's playing with all kinds of people, and then he jumps over to New York, and he's playing with who?
I don't know.
So it's hard to find a substitute for this, and we can't find substitutes. In trials, and I'll put it like that, in trials we've had different drummers. We've had a couple of different drummers when Pedro has been away, and it's not the same. And they've done fantastic jobs. It's really important to say fantastic jobs. But as a trio, this feels
and
very
Ross too,
and Ross as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's very hard to find someone like Ross. He's just a killer Hammond organ player.
Yeah, he's a wizard, isn't he? He's a wizard.
Great, yeah.
Watch his feet and watch what his left hand's doing, his right hand's doing, and how do you do that?
Ross, speaking about that, so you were talking to me earlier about the huge job it is to move your Hammond organ everywhere. How does that work internationally? How does it?
Well, obviously, I can't take that with me outside of the UK, so it then becomes the Hammond organ lottery.
Okay.
As a great organist friend of mine likes to call it. So more often than not, you'll turn up to an instrument that's in some way broken, but you have to make the best of it. So.
Okay, but you might be quite relieved on one level that you don't need to lug it. You just need to arrive. Somewhat.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And not have to, because there's a sort of crane effect and ramp and everything, isn't there, when you move it around the UK?
Yeah.
On your own?
Yes.
Do these help you?
They offer, to be fair.
Shall I say,
They do offer.
there is no one I know that will carry a Hammond and two Leslies to a jazz gig. And Ross is the only one who's consistently being true to the sound and the energy of the Hammond organ. Yeah, and it's quite something, if you book someone to come and play organ, and if it's not Ross, they'll turn up with a little keyboard with you know, and pull a little few.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different
Experience.
Yeah. So, you know, we appreciate the sound that Ross makes, and, you know, the wizardry of his
So
performance.
true.
And it's incredible. As I say, I stand back and look at Ross and Pedro, and every time we play, I just stand back and I can just sit down in the audience and just enjoy the show.
Bless you.
You know.
Is that why they did the duo? Did you ask them to do that? So that you
Well, the thing is, they naturally did the duo because they're a unit. They're a unit, and it doesn't need me. And it absolutely doesn't need me. And it's a totally different concept, and it speaks very strongly. So it's beautiful to know that they do that, and I encourage them.
Yeah,
I encourage you to do it because it's, you know,
I find the generosity of jazz in that way, jazz musicians, really fantastic, in the sense that you will work together as a trio, there's other combinations, work with other people, and there's none of that. It just seems to be...
Well, there can be.
Oh, really?
Yes, there can be some negativity that we come across very occasionally. But generally, we're a small community, and we have to get along because we're going to bump into each other for years to come.
Decades.
Yeah, and it's beautiful when, you know, I'm not massive on, if you like, Facebook, but when I do go on and I see how the community communicates, it's heartening because it's like, yeah, it feels like a community. It feels like the jazz community. And as we get older, we start having families, and, you know, we move into the next sort of chapter of our lives, and there's a new love, and there's a new respect for each other, and there's a certain calm that we all, you know, attain, and it's beautiful to feel that the community is one of sharing, you know, and giving. So
I just say as a little aside that this trio has a special place in my heart, particularly because I met my now wife on a Velocity Trio gig back in 2014 in Huddersfield.
Andy has a beautiful, beautiful baby boy with his wife.
Congratulations.
That's always be something.
That's amazing.
It makes me go,
You're a big family. That's it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Just a family, which is wonderful. Well, we are delighted that you've come together here in Nottingham. I'm so happy to be a resident of Nottingham today. I think not a lot of people have been able to travel, but because of the Persian menu, hopefully we can take you a little way out of the UK for a while you eat your dinner and before the show. Thank you so much, all three of you, for taking a bit of time to chat to us. It's been a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you all later on the stage.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.